Greetings, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland, and if you really know London well, you might recognise that's King's Cross Station behind me. So this is one of the busiest railway stations in the British Isles. About 30 million passengers arriving here every year. So this station dates to 1852, and back then this was the northern edge of London. Well, really it was the borough of Camden, part of the county of Middlesex. The county of Middlesex, which was really abolished in 1889 when Greater London was created, and Middlesex was simply absorbed into London. And Middlesex only survives in the name of, say, Middlesex University, which is here, as well as got a branch in Dubai, or Middlesex Hospital, but that's that. So you see how high the roof is, and of course it's got a huge skylight to admit as much darkness as possible, as is allowed by the cloudy weather here. But why is the roof so high? Well, obviously you've got to think back to the age of steam, and there are all these steam trains, and they're burning their coal, and so the puff train is sending a lot of smoke and steam, so it could rise as high as possible, not be down at face level, people getting grit in their eye. But you may have seen the film Brief Encounter from 1945, starring Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard, and had she not got grit in her eye and started lacrimating, well, she would never have met the dishy doctor. But that's another story. So the tube was sort of be electrified from about 1904, but the mainline trains, as overground, they were steam trains into the 1950s. Only then did they start changing to diesel. So the road here is called Euston Road, and King's Cross is right beside St Pancras. Often called King's Cross St Pancras is that way. I might show you a bit later. So the whole area is known as King's Cross. It used to be rather a seedy area. There used to be a lot of streetwalkers around here, and a lot of pawn shops and cinemas where the Dirty Mac Brigade would congregate. But it's come up in the world, and partly these places have just been priced out. People can get their filth online. So what else about King's Cross? Yeah, there was a cross around here. There's a memorial to our sovereign lord, King George IV, Sailor Billy, but that's long since been demolished. It's nothing to do with a Charing Cross, with the Queen, whom had crosses erected at every place where her coffin stopped in its journey from Lincolnshire down to Westminster. I erroneously believe that it was, but it's not related to that. So King's Cross, well, so much has happened here. I remember 2004 when bombs went off here, the 7/7 bombing, the 7th of July. I was due to come into London, and then we heard there'd been explosions on the tube. We thought it was gas pipes or something like that, and so London was in gridlock, and I really didn't want to have to come into London for some boring science conference thing. So but anyway, that was that. Obviously about 60 people were killed, but some of it was here at King's Cross, and there was an African woman whose son was, well, disappeared. She didn't want to accept he was killed, and putting out posters in case he was still alive somehow. They didn't know anything. And I remember seeing this even a couple of months later, poor woman. Unfortunately, of course, her son was killed straight away. So we'll go into King's Cross, have a look at it. But this is the terminus which serves Scotland, and really is in the East Coast Main Line. So the Great North Eastern Railway went from here, and it was like that till 1948. Just after the Second World War, the railways were nationalised, part of the programme of the Labour government under Clement Attlee, a unit of man, but, well, it still wasn't completely decent. No, I've got a lot of time for Attlee, actually, Labour's greatest Prime Minister. Anyway, so it's got 12 platforms now, had 11 for a while, and they got rid of one, which is in the very eastern end of the station, and then decades later decided to bring it back into commission, but they'd already numbered them 1 to 11. So how the one which is further to the east of number 1, what number are you going to call it? You could renumber all of them, but he said, no, I'll tell you what we'll do, is we'll call it number 0. And what if they bring in another one even further east of that? I suppose they'd have to call it number -1. And I'm sure there's some station in the UK that has that, I just don't recall which. So here we are. There is, you see the sign to platform 0 above me there. I remember when I was in lonely exile in Yorkshire. This was my salvation coming through here. Now, nothing against Yorkshire. Yorkshire per se was fine, but toxic management. And some people I absolutely abominated, mostly not Yorkshire people, actually. And when I come here, and my goodness, the emancipation I felt when I came through those gates was just ineffable. Sometimes it's only the gates opening when it's quite busy. I'll tell you why, because you will be inspecting that train. These trains go all the way to Glasgow. I think there's also from just over that away, well, about a mile and a half, there's Euston Station, and stations go there as well to Scotland, not to Edinburgh, I don't think, only to Glasgow. These ones sometimes go to Edinburgh, then turn east to Glasgow. The Euston ones don't go to Edinburgh at all, they go to Glasgow. And there's one a day all the way to Inverness. You can't go further than Inverness directly from London. Used to be able to go to Aberdeen. Well, there was a Plymouth to Aberdeen one when I was 13. I don't know if that still exists. It obviously didn't go via London. So here we are, some of these choo-choo trains, and there's a little bridge up there. So that is King's Cross, and it's given its name to a place in Sydney, Australia. And when I was in Australia, well, in the biggest city there, I noticed that many of the toponyms were very familiar. They're redolent to places here in Londinium, such as Oxford Street or, well, Hyde Park and other places too numerous to mention. See people in the red livery of LNER, London North East Railway. There used to be Wagon, WAGN, West Anglia Great Northern. So Anglia in England was really what's now the East Midlands. That's now called, sometimes called West Anglia, or East Anglia, which would be like Cambridgeshire, perhaps Rutland, Suffolk, and Norfolk, maybe Essex. Where West Anglia, those counties might be Northamptonshire, Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire. I can't think where else would count as that. Perhaps even Oxfordshire, Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire, and so forth. As there are 48 counties in England, about half of them take their name from their county town. The county town was the capital of the county. It's not always, and it's not very big anymore. For example, Hertford being the county town of Hertfordshire, and Leicester being the county town of Leicestershire. Of course, Leicester's actually a cathedral. It's got a cathedral, so it's actually a city, not a town, but it's called county town. It's in capital of the county. Now, this bit is new. When I was little, you didn't see the front of the station that you see today, because there was this thing built in the 60s coming much further out, and this bit here where you can get under the tube was completely enclosed. There wasn't glass like that. I met Terry Waite in the station years ago, he of Lebanese hostage fame. He's actually a man mountain. But anyway, coming out here, the station went right out here, and there was a ticket hall, there were various shops and things like that, and there were queues, and there was a line painted on the floor if you wanted to queue up for the train to Edinburgh, and so on. So that's it. So look how clear the sky is. So you can see a full moon. There I was quipping, oh well, there's not enough colour contrast, you can't make it out. Make it darker. Can you see the moon now? There you can see the moon over there. I got it right. I'll make it a bit brighter again. So, but that was all demolished about 6 years ago, and now you can see the frontispiece. Is that what it's called? The front elevation of the station more effectively. So look at this, a huge ventilation system for it. And then behind it, that dark red brick building with a grey slate roof, that is some pancreas station, not pancreas, not the organ of the body. That was the one which was saved from destruction by Sir John Betjeman, later poet laureate, because people didn't appreciate Victoriana in these days. Now, behold yon hotel, the Great Northern Hotel. So remember that when this is the fastest way to travel, till say the 1920s, there were no planes going anywhere. Planes were only military till the 20s. So people will travel by train, and then if you've got a very early train or arriving very late, you want to stay in a hotel. Sometimes the hotel's right beside a station, and sometimes you could actually enter the hotel without even leaving the station. So this concourse bit I'm going to walk through now is new. You see the concourse there appears to be tiny because it used to go much further out. So they shifted the station, the main part of the station, from the south of the station to the west of the station, where we are now. And there's a mezzanine floor up there. There used to be a lavatorium there, but they were just announcing that the poo-poo room had to be closed for works. So we're not quite the busiest time. We're coming up to rush hour, and then you'll see the arrivals and departures boards behind me. But anyway, this is best known from the works of J.K. Rowling, because Joanne Rowling, she was living in Edinburgh, though she's English, as a penniless single mother in the late 90s, when she came upon this idea of about a boarding school for budding magicians. And then there was this fictive character which came to her mind, a certain Harry Potter, and that was that, and decided they would depart from London on the Hogwarts Express, the name of the school being Hogwarts, and depart from the platform 9 3/4, which of course is fictitious again. So these figments of her ever fertile mind, such as Quidditch and whatnot, and the names of the houses like Slytherin and Gryffindor and all the rest of it, they captivated the minds of tens of millions of children all across the globe. Now, of course, feeble-minded people think it's something to do with witchery and devil worship and so on, but my goodness, some people have no imagination. Look at this, so we're coming up to Yuletide. How about these ladies? They obviously thought I stank because they offered me some scent, and they obviously thought I'm haggard, so they offered me some cream for my face. Thanks a lot. So these guys are human computers here at this information desk, and just ask them anything, and they'll have the timetable, you know, in their head. So the other side of the station, those are the long distance trains to northeast England and to Caledonia. On this side are the shorter distance ones to like Peterborough and Cambridge and so forth. There is a non-stop train to Cambridge, which is 45 minutes. You want to go that way. If you get a train to Cambridge from this bit, it's quite long. It's an hour and a half at least, because it stops about a dozen places in between. Now, this is the queue for platform 9 3/4, which is actually mercifully small. The station only opens about 6 in the morning. There'll be no queue then. And then it closes about midnight, and just before that there'll be no queue then. So there you can see in the background. You don't have to pay to pose with that, but you do have to queue up for ages. And there's a shop. Oh, it's free to go to the shop, but I've never ever seen it without a queue, even coming really late at night. Now the trolley, I'm sorry to say, it's not a real place, this imaginary platform. They remove it from the wall and they take it in late at night before they lock up the station. So there we go. So the Hogwarts Express supposedly departs from here. And when I was working in Northern England, we would in train here and go up to Yorkshire, and people jokingly called it the Hogwarts Express. So that was that. So the parcel yard, that's an ale house up top. Okay, so now you've got a bit of an idea of what King's Cross Station is like. Ooh, and little Waitrose in there. There's a ticket hall there. You can buy tickets from these self-service machines, no need to wait. But if you've got plenty of time and don't really understand the situation, then I would suggest you do ask the ticket clerks, and they can get you deals, great savings, especially if you go off-peak or super off-peak. Depending when you're departing, it's rather complicated. The idea is to spread the load, so fewer passengers are travelling at the busiest times. Convince people to travel when it's less busy, because otherwise it's just too crowded at the busiest times. So that's a little bit about what King's Cross Station is called. You can see why it's called King's Cross St Pancras, because St Pancras is just across from it, not even a stone's throw away. There we are. So it's regenerated with some yuppie flats around here and gyms and things like that. And Crossrail's supposed to come through here. I can't think what else to say about King's Cross Station. So oddly, my life has got run through this station quite a few times, quite a few years. When I was working in Northamptonshire, subsequently when I was employed in Yorkshire, and I can't think what else, when I'm going to North Britain as well. So I do so prefer to travel by choo-choo, you know, that means, because it's a pain in the neck going to the airport, and I don't like having to go through airport security, and you can't take this and you can take that. And it's more of a hassle to book, whereas here you can just walk on. And okay, it's a little bit longer on the train, but door to door there's really very little difference. And train, you've got plenty of space, stand up, walk around, go to the loo, all the rest of it. You're not absolutely guaranteed a seat, but so long as you go to sensible time, it's usually fine. So yeah, more stuff they're building here. There's a canal just behind here. There's even a little street garden. There's a little canal museum near here. And in one of the disused railway yards is a theatre. I remember going to see a production about 4 years ago of the Railway Children. They had a real train coming in. It only moved about 20 metres or something like that, a real locomotive from the days of steam, because that's what the Railway Children were into. Is that by E. Nesbitt, that one? So there you go, St Pancras. That's where Eurostar goes from, really, really long. So it goes north of London and then around south and into a tunnel and over to France and Belgium. Anything else to say about that? So we've got loads of platforms, obviously trains from there straight to Luton Airport. Can't think where else. I think trains from there to the south coast, if I got that right, on to Brighton. Anything else I should point out about that? No, perhaps not. So you can see why they're there. So here on Euston Road, they've got 3 major railway stations, a bit too clustered together. So London just doesn't have enough stations or enough platforms, so really needs to build more because the population has grown so rapidly. Okay, I shall switch enough. Now that's enough from King's Cross.